This is KBS World Radio, the overseas service of the Korean Broadcasting System, coming to you from Seoul, the capital of the Republic of Korea. We now begin today's English broadcast on KBS World Radio. From Seoul, Korea, KBS World Radio News starts right now. On today's broadcast, a presidential foreign policy brain says Seoul will reduce the scale of joint military drills with the U.S. if North Korea suspends its nuclear and missile program. President Moon's pick for justice minister gives up his candidacy amid wide criticism over his false wedding certificate and sexist remarks. And South Korean share prices posted the steepest growth among major economies this year. This is KBS World Radio News. I'm Bruce Harrison. President Moon Jae-in's foreign policy brain says if North Korea suspends its nuclear and missile activities, South Korea in return will reduce the scale of its annual military exercises with the U.S. Speaking in a policy forum in Washington, Special Foreign Policy Advisor Moon Chung-in said that the government's environmental assessment for the full deployment of the THAAD anti-missile system will take a year. Kim Bum-soo has more.
I think what he has in mind is, we may scale down the deployment of American strategic weapons.
The South Korean president's foreign policy brain said that Seoul is ready to recognize Kim Jong-un as the North Korean leader and resume dialogue. Speaking at a Woodrow Wilson Center seminar in Washington on Friday, Presidential Special Advisor Moon Chung-in said Seoul favors linking denuclearization to a peace treaty and resuming the six-party talks.
If North Korea suspends its nuclear and missile activities, then we may consult with the United States to scaling down allocate U.S. joint exercise and training.
The advisor said that Seoul seeks a peaceful coexistence or a de facto unification with the North, adding the North provocations will not be tolerated. As South Korea suspended an additional deployment of the THAAD anti-missile system after putting in place 2 launchers and a radar, he said the pending environmental assessment will take a year.
4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and the winter. They should go the full seasonal cycle and measure environmental impact.
He also said that Seoul should now have the wartime operational control of the South Korea-U.S. allied forces.
I think President Trump will love that idea.
Kim Bum-soo, KBS World Radio News.
Justice Minister nominee An Kyung-won withdrew his candidacy on Friday, 5 days after he was nominated. He sent a text message to reporters saying he cannot stand in the way of the Moon Jae-in government's initiative to reform the nation's prosecution. The 69-year-old was widely criticized when it was revealed that in his 20s, he registered his former girlfriend as his wife without her consent. He forged her seal in order to register the marriage license. Before he withdrew his candidacy on Friday, An held a news conference and apologized for the false marriage registration, but dismissed other criticisms. The ruling Democratic Party said it respects An's decision that there can be no setbacks in reforming the prosecution, a promise President Moon and his government made to the public. The main opposition Liberty Korea Party called the decision belated but only natural. The party also blamed Cho Kuk, senior presidential secretary for civil affairs, for the disastrous personnel choices so far, saying he's not properly doing his job. The minor opposition People's Party said On's decision is fortunate and other problematic candidates, including Labor Minister nominee Cho Tae-yop, should also immediately step down to relieve any burden on the administration. The splinter Barun Party called on the presidential office to be more thorough in vetting candidates for the remaining cabinet positions, including Justice Minister. Democratic Party Representative Moon Hee-sung is urging Tokyo to produce a joint declaration with Seoul to address the thorny renegotiate the controversial settlement deal signed in 2015. While citing the Japanese government's apologetic statements issued in 1993 and 1995, Moon pointed to the 1998 Obuchi Declaration, in which Seoul and Tokyo agreed to turning to a future-oriented partnership. He said the two sides should consider issuing another statement on the 20th anniversary of the Obuchi Declaration, cautioning that any agreement that leaves out the victims themselves is meaningless. South Korea and India are pushing for a summit on the sidelines of the Group of 20 summit opening in Hamburg, Germany, early next month. President Moon's special envoy to India, Chung Dong-che, met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi on Friday and delivered Moon's letter. Speaking to Korea correspondents after the meeting, the envoy said the Indian PM welcomed and expressed gratitude over Chung's visit. It was the first time a newly inaugurated South Korean president has dispatched an envoy to India. Chung also said that during campaigning, President Moon pledged to step up diplomacy with India on a comparable level with that of the U.S., Japan, China, and Russia, and his dispatch signals this determination. Finance Minister Kim Dong-yeon held talks with his Iranian counterpart Ali Tayebnia on Friday in Jeju Island on the sidelines of an annual meeting of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Kim asked for Tehran's support to help Korean firms advance into Iranian projects invested in by the regional bank. During the talks, Kim said that economic cooperation between Korea and Iran was diversifying into more high added value sectors. Kim expressed hope a $25 billion financial package the two sides agreed to last year would assist Iran's economic development as well as bilateral relations. The two sides agreed to uncover more areas for aid reception as well. On Friday, Kim also met with Australian Minister for Small Business Michael McCormick and Laotian Foreign Minister Somdi Thoangdi and discussed bilateral cooperation. South Korean share prices posted the steepest growth among major economies this year. The won-dollar exchange rate recorded one of the sharpest drops among major currencies during this period. Our Kim So-yeon reports.
The South Korean benchmark stock index posted the steepest growth among major economies this year. The Korea Composite Stock Price Index on Friday closed the week at 2,301.83. That's about 16.5% higher from late last year. According to the Korea Center for International Finance, which compared stock values of advanced economies as of Thursday, Indian share prices grew 16.7% during that period. The Philippines trailed South Korea at 16.4%, followed by Hong Kong, Vietnam, and Germany. The U.S. Dow Jones Industrial Average gained just over 8% this year. The U.S. Nasdaq gained 14.5% this year, and the S&P 500 gained 8.6%. Korea's tech-savvy Kosdaq rose 6.1% during the same period. On the foreign exchange market, the value of the local currency strengthened by more than 6% against the U.S. dollar. That's nearly the highest rise among major currencies so far this year. The U.S. dollar has been weak since Donald Trump took office, boosting the relative value of other currencies. Kim So-yeon, KBS World Radio News.
The French team was the first to arrive in South Korea for this year's Taekwondo World Championships, opening in Muju, North Jeolla Province on June 24th. 56 athletes from 5 countries, including France, Canada, and the Netherlands, arrived on Saturday ahead of the big championship. And that's the news from KBS World Radio's News Center in Seoul. I'm Bruce Harrison.
활짝 새로움이 가득 찬 이 노래 들어 Hello everyone and welcome to the Saturday Mailbag Show, KBS Listeners Lounge, coming to you from Seoul, the capital of South Korea.
It's Saturday, June 17th of 2017, and as always, we've got the latest listeners' letters, messages, and reports we receive from you coming right up.
So please stay tuned. I'm Lawrence Taylor.
And I'm Kim Ji-eun. We'll be right back. Hi, Lawrence.
Hi, Jin. How are you today?
I am doing all right. I'm a little bit tired, but it's the weekend, so I think it's okay to be a little tired at this point.
Right.
I've got the entire weekend to charge up. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing good today. Looking forward to the weekend. Seeing some friends, so yeah, looking forward to that. But the weather is getting pretty hot now, isn't it?
It's getting pretty hot. I believe yesterday at 33 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but
hot.
Yeah, it's hot. It's
Right.
pretty hot.
And I actually read that last month was the hottest May in Seoul since 1973. And that's expected to be the case for June as well.
That's what I hear too. And there were even reports of a banana tree in Daegu City bearing fruit earlier this month. And for those who may not know, bananas are tropical fruits, and so they're not really supposed to grow anywhere on the South Korean peninsula at all, let alone in June, not even in July or August.
Right. We actually covered that story on Seoul Calling on Thursday. Apparently the tree's owner was as surprised as anyone else to see the fruit. Since he only planted that one single banana tree for decorative purposes.
Right, and it's one thing to hear about bananas and mangoes being cultivated on Jeju Island, which is considered to be a subtropical climate. But it's weird to hear these stories coming out of Daegu, even though it is one of the hottest cities in the country.
Right, isn't that also the same city where they say you can fry an egg on the asphalt? I'm not sure why you'd want to.
Oh, they usually just did that on the news to show how hot it is, and I remember this one very clearly. July for the first 10 years of my life because my grandparents used to live there.
Was it always that hot back then too?
Summer in the mid-90s when they actually did fry an egg on the asphalt on the news, and we were just looking at it. But come to think of it, though, back then it was only a couple of days a year that the temperature would soar so high that you could actually fry an egg on outside. But there were definitely no bananas growing on trees in June, and my grandparents didn't even have AC at the time. They could just crack the windows open on both sides and the wind and the breeze would take care of it. But I guess not quite the case anymore. It was only recently that the city got its new nickname too.
Yes, I heard about this. Do you want to tell our listeners what it is?
Sure, it's Africa, as in portmanteau of Daegu and Africa.
That's right. It certainly gives you an idea of the scorching heat in Daegu right now.
Right. I'm just happy that it's nice and cool in the studio. We've got our drinks and whatnot. And speaking of the studio, though, let's get back to business at hand.
Of course, I would like to give you another reminder that the annual KBS World Radio Overseas Listener Satisfaction Survey is currently underway.
That's right. Printed survey leaflets have been sent out to some of our long-time listeners, and we've had some of them let us know that they've already received it and will be sending it back to us soon. So thank you very much for that.
Online, you can take the survey on our website at world.kbs.co.kr, and you can also find the link on our Facebook page.
Just so you know, we had over 1,700 listeners take part in the survey last year, and the English service received the second highest number of responses, just falling behind the Spanish service by 2 responses. So maybe you can help us take the top spot this year. We're not competing or anything, but, since there are 11 of us, might as well.
That's right. So once again, go to our website for more information on the survey. And for those who received the survey forms in the mail, we'd like to thank you in advance for mailing the completed forms back to us before the end of August.
All right, now we'll take a quick break, but we'll be right back with this week's letters and reports, so don't go away.
You're listening to KBS Listeners Lounge on KBS World Radio. It's time now for us to take a look at the listener letters and reception reports. As usual, we've received some fantastic handwritten, typed up and emailed comments, letters and reception reports from you, our listeners, and we'll share some of those with you on this program.
We'll start with a handwritten letter and reception report from our UK monitor, Grant Skinner. Since the beginning of this year, Grant's been sharing with us the origin stories of the names of each month, and of course, it was no exception for the month of May. Here is what he wrote. May honors Maia, an ancient Roman goddess of spring. She was chosen to be remembered and worshipped at this time of the year as she was linked in mythology with the growth of nature. The linguistic roots of her name spoke of a mother, a nurse, and universal increase. An alternate explanation claims that political reasons were responsible for the designation of the month. Its name paid tribute to the majores who formed the original Senate of Rome. I think I certainly prefer the first theory over the latter. I'd rather have a goddess over a senator. Grant also wrote about May Day and Labor Day, which were also very interesting and also very informative. Thank you very much for that, Grant.
As for his reception reports, Grant said he listened to our broadcast on May 1st on 9.515 MHz at 16:27 hours UTC on a Grundig YB400 receiver with an extendable rod antenna. He rated the SINPO 35443 and he wrote, "Gold star for effort. I could actually listen to your broadcast, which was a pleasant surprise. The broadcast quality was degraded by electrical noise that sounded like crackles, which came in waves. It was not constant. But despite the crackles, he was able to give us a lot of details about the programs he heard, with the last timestamp at 16:49 hours UTC.
And on the following day, he heard us again on 15.575 megahertz this time from 1300 to 1311 hours UTC. He said that there was too much noise which kept him from listening to all of the broadcast. He rated the SINPO 25352. And on May 4th, he tuned into us on 15.575 megahertz once again from 1309 to 1331 hours UTC. And on this day, the SINPO started out at 25322, but improved to 35453. It really is wonderful to know that you are finally able to hear us, Grant. I know it hasn't been easy. I know there were some periods of frustration, in fact. So thank you again for your patience and for your dedication. We'll have your QSL cards on their way very soon.
We actually have been receiving more reception reports on 15.575 megahertz since last month, which is a welcome change. Listener Roger R. Roussel of Canada sent us a reception report by post once again after listening to us on May 9th. He listened to us from 1300 to 1336 hours UTC on 15.575 megahertz using a Grundig satellite 800 receiver with a 25-meter long outdoor antenna, and that yielded a SINPO rating of 35333. He gave us lots of details about the content as usual. Of course, May 9th was a day of the presidential election here, and it looks like Roger was closely following the news on this day. He also sent us a postcard along with a report. It was a great photo of a lighthouse, and he explained that it was actually very near where he lives in New Brunswick. So thank you very much, Roger.
It really feels great to be reading reports of good reception on 15.575 megahertz after such a long period of practically no reception. Listener Robert Fraser of Maine in the United States sent us a neatly typed up reception report dated June 3rd. It was actually typed up with the typewriter, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it was really pretty to look at. He listened to us on June 3rd on 15.575 megahertz from 1300 to 1337 hours UTC. He used a Grundig YB300 receiver with a real antenna, and the SINPO stood at 45544, which is very good, especially for 15.575 megahertz, I think. He said there was a bad flutter in the signal, but the signal became stronger as time passed. Robert also gave us some details of what he heard and added, "It has been some time since I heard you. For some time, I thought you also had quit shortwave. But after trying for some months, I noticed the faint signal getting stronger every day. I am glad to say that you are almost as strong as you were months ago." Again, it's wonderful to hear this. It was actually one of the many reasons I had been looking forward to summer, so thank you very much, Robert.
We also received an email from listener Christer Brunstrom of Sweden. He said that he listened to us on June 11th on 15.575 megahertz from 1300 to 1400 hours UTC. He noted that there was no interference apart from the electronic noise in his building in central Halmstad and rated the SINPO 35333. He listened to the news and K-pop Interactive, and he said, The show is good as background music, but I would have appreciated more variety. This is perhaps due to my age. I am 69 years old, and my favorite music dates back to the 1960s. I believe that the music you grew up with then stays with you all your life. That's something I agree with as well. I am also interested in folk music from around the world, and especially from Latin America and the Pacific area.
First of all, I'm actually surprised that Krister is 69 years old because his voice sounds really young. And second of all, I think music from the 60s is just good all around. I mean, who doesn't like the Beatles or the Beach Boys or the Bee Gees? But that being said, I wholeheartedly agree, and I know you do too, that the music you grew up with stays with you all your life, because even though I like music from all eras practically, I do have a soft spot for the music from the 90s. So thank you for your report, Krister. We'll also pass on the note to Karen to add a little bit of variety to K-Pop Interactive.
The change in season seems to have been good, not just for our signal on 15.575 MHz, but also for our 11.810 MHz frequency too. Our UK monitor Nick Sharp continues to keep us updated on the reception condition in his area, and it's very easy to see that the condition is improving over time. For example, last week Nick had said that the SINPO for our 2200-hour UTC broadcast on 11.810 MHz stood at 32322, noting that although the signal had become slightly stronger, it continues to suffer from co-channel interference by China Radio International's Spanish service. But earlier this week, on June 12th, 13th and 14th, Nick said that the reception was fair throughout, with a SINPO rating of 3 across the board. Thank you very much for the good news, Nick. And he also had an interesting side note. Nick said on June 9th, "Sorry I was unable to send you a report last night as I was counting votes at the Egham Sports Centre in the British general election. We started counting the votes at 2200 hours local time and finished the count by 2 a.m. local time the next morning, with the Conservative Chancellor Philip Hammond winning. I actually know Egham quite well, as my friends used to go to Royal Holloway University, which is just near there. It's kind of just outside London. Anyway, it's good to hear you were helping out with the election, Nick. Thank you very much for getting in touch."
I think it was around the same time last year that Nick mentioned counting ballots after the Brexit vote. Was that in July or?
It was actually on June 24th, and I know that because it's my birthday.
Oh, that's
So,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
So I remember it well. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so vote counting, I think that's Nick's thing, so I hope it wasn't too tiring to be counting ballots until 2 a.m.
Yeah, very late.
Well, thank you very much for your reports, as always, Nick. We also have another report on the same frequency by listener Eddie Prabowo of Indonesia. In his email, Eddie said that he listened to us on 11.810 megahertz from 2244 to 2259 hours UTC on June 9th. In the notes, he wrote that the report was logged via web SDR at Twente University in the Netherlands, and mentioned, he said he monitored it in Jakarta, Indonesia using a Xiaomi Redmi 2 Android smartphone and rated the SINPO 34323. He also added moderate signal strength came with relatively strong fading. Noise appears when the signal faded. Minor QRM or interferences from the other station or co-channel. Heard a woman saying something is also what he wrote there.
On the following day, Eddie also listened to us on 9.515 megahertz from 1600 to 1637 hours UTC, which seems to have been the better frequency for him. He gave the broadcast a SINPO rating of 4 across the board, and he added, "There was strong signal strength which came together with fading, making the clear audio sound wavy. I sometimes found a minor QRM like a data TX. Thank you very much for your reports, Eddie."
Staying with the frequency 9.515 megahertz, our monitor Mohammed Shamim S. of India sent us his summary for the month of May via email recently, and 9.515 megahertz was the first he mentioned. He wrote, frequency 9.515 megahertz at 1600 to 1700 hours UTC was loud and clear in my area in May. In fact, he recently sent us a number of reception reports on this particular frequency with the SINPO at 4s across the board, which isn't bad at all. And he said frequency 9.640 megahertz was good for reception from 1600 to 1700 hours UTC in May as well. As for 9.880 megahertz, he said it was average for reception in his area in May with strong jamming from China Radio International. I'm just gonna add out there, it's as usual, I suppose. The signal strength, he said, was strong, but there was strong jamming from China Radio International. Mohammed also suggested that we start a program about Korean cuisine or one about Korean culture and events under the title K-Arts Roundup, which isn't a bad idea at all. Thank you for your suggestion as well as your report and summary, Mohammed.
Listener Dario Gabrielli of Italy also sent us an email with reports on 9.515 megahertz. He said that he listened to us on June 3rd from 16:15 to 16:30 hours UTC. He said that he received our signal with a 4-band Dagon 1128H radio with an indoor telescopic antenna, and the SIMPO stood at 2 across the board. Dario also sent us an MP3 file recording of our broadcast, which have been very helpful as well. Thank you very much, Dario.
And here's another summary for the month of May. Our Taiwanese monitor Chengnan Lu sent us his logs for the month when he listened to our broadcast on 9.570 megahertz from 0800 to 0900 hours UTC, a total of 25 times. As usual, he tuned in using a JRC NRD92 receiver with the whip antenna, and it was very nice to see that the simple ratings were mostly 5 across the board, with occasional 4s here and there, but overall, the worst condition he had seen in the month of May was on May 15th when he rated the SIMPO 4 across the board. That was the worst he saw, so not bad at all. Nanlu also sent us a blank QSL card from Radio Taiwan International once again. Thank you very much for both the report and the QSL card. Next up, we have reception reports from listener Avinash Chikoth of India, who actually sent us an email and an online report.
Avinash actually listened to us from where he works in Al Ain in the United Arab Emirates, but he clarified that he is currently on vacation and is at home in India. For the 2 reports he sent us, he specified that he used a Sony ICF SW7600GR digital radio and a Deacon 31MS indoor loop antenna to tune into us. The first report was dated May 24th, when he listened to us on 9.880 megahertz from 1400 to 1430 hours UTC. He rated the SIMPO 4 across the board and noted some slight co-channel interference. On the second report, Avinash said that he heard us on June 2nd from 1830 to 1900 hours UTC on the frequency 7.275 megahertz. For this broadcast, he rated the SIMPO 33343 and said that there had been some adjacent channel interference by Voice of Vietnam. Thank you very much for your reports, Avinash.
And I believe that is all the time we have for the letters, emails, and reception reports from you today. We'll be sure to send out the corresponding QSL cards to everyone who requested.
That's all we have for you this week on KBS Listeners Lounge. We hope you enjoyed the show. This has been Lawrence Taylor.
And this has been Kim Ji-eun. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for tuning in to KBS World Radio. KBS World Radio is Korea's flagship international broadcaster, airing in 11 different languages. The English service of KBS World Radio broadcasts 2 hours a day for various media outlets, including shortwave radio, satellite radio, and internet. Visit our website at world.kbs.co.kr, where you can stream all of our content on our internet radio Wink by tuning into various channels like Wink 24 and Wink Music. Wink is also available on mobile if you download our on-air app onto your mobile phone. Visit our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/EnglishKBS or follow us on Twitter at KBS World Radio. You can also email us at english@kbs.co.kr.